Hi, this is Daniel with iRevive Spray. In this video, we're going to show you how to repair a water-damaged iPhone 4S. You can see we have a pentalobe screwdriver there for the bottom screws, a Phillips screwdriver for most of the internal screws, and a flat screwdriver, along with a pry tool, a suction cup to be used on 3G or 3GS phones, and a SIM removal tool. Please note that these videos are played in double the speed, but if you need to slow them down, just click the setting button and then switch it to the 0.5. I will sound like Darth Vader, but at least you'll be able to tell what's going on. Using the SIM removal tool with your phone powered off, remove the SIM card and SIM card tray. All of these tools that we're showing you are included whenever you order a kit from irevivespray.com. The first step is using the pentalobe screwdriver. First, make sure and look if your iPhone is a 4S, it's going to have pentalobe screws. It's only the 4s, the very first 4s, that had the Phillips screws on the bottom. So you will use the pentalobe screwdriver to take out the two bottom screws, and then by pressing down and sliding up, you're going to lift off the back plate. Now set the phone down and we're going to go ahead and start disassembling it. First off, with the battery, there are two Phillips screws that you need to remove. And once you have those out, you can use the flat screwdriver to carefully lift off the battery flex cable connector from the board. Make sure you go at the corner just as I showed you, and don't try and go from the other way because you can actually break where it sits on the board. Once you have the battery out, give it a bit of a squeeze in the middle. It should be hard. If it's squishy or feels like there's an air bubble inside of there, you're going to have to replace your battery. A lot of the times when a phone is exposed to water, the battery will actually end up, the water reacts with the chemicals inside the battery and starts to inflate it, and it's not going to work properly. Using the flat screwdriver, as you saw, we're going to just gently lift up straight up on that antenna cable, then unwind it, and then use the flat screwdriver to take out the screw right there next to the battery connector. Moving up on the phone, on the middle left side, we're going to use the Phillips screwdriver to take out the two screws which are covering the charging port flex cable connector. That plate will simply lift off as soon as you get those two screws out and set it to the side. Still moving up the left side of the phone, we're going to take out this Phillips screw. Keep in mind that this video is playing in twice the speed, just to make it more bearable for you to watch this entire thing. So whenever it looks like I'm doing something really fast, you shouldn't be doing it that fast, otherwise you might be a sort of superhuman. Going around the top flex cable cover, there are 5 screws that you need to remove, all Phillips. Make sure to keep them in order. They are all different. So whenever you're setting them out, I think we're going to have a screw chart up. There will be a link in the description once that's available. Once you get those screws out, start from the top and lift up. And then there's 2 tabs in the bottom. You can see them there, which lock it into place. That's why you definitely want to start from the top and lift back towards you. Go ahead and lift up the charging port connector. Bend that back, and it's going to expose 2 additional Phillips screws down there on the bottom left. We're not going to take a look at them yet since we already have the flat screwdriver out. We're going to go ahead and undo all these top flex cables. These control everything from the buttons, the proximity sensor, the ear speaker. The one I'm doing right now is for the LCD, and this one right here is for the digitizer. Actually, I might have reversed those. It was digitizer then LCD. So keep moving to the right. That is a little bit tricky to get out. It kind of has a prong on the back side. If you unscrew it, you can kind of work it out, but you do need to get that out because there is a flat screw and a screw beneath it right there. That was the antenna. You pop that one up and then do this flat screw and a screw. I call it because if you look at it, there's a hole in the top, and so the screw actually goes into that screw, and then use a flat screwdriver. This one right here on the top left corner, there's typically a black piece of tape covering it. So make sure you peel back that black piece of tape, and then there's going to be that Phillips screw in the top left, and also this gold little prong sits underneath that screw as well. Back to the bottom left corner of the phone, we're going to take out that Phillips, and there's also a second one there. Oh, that one's on the charging port or the loudspeaker assembly, so we don't need to remove that. Okay, so now you have the logic board out. This is the brains of the phone, and this is what we're going to need to clean. Using a flat screwdriver or an X-Acto knife, if you have one. X-Acto knives work extremely well to do this also. You're going to want to gently lift the prongs. You can see there's prongs holding all the way around these boards, and this is actually in real time showing you the speed that I was doing at. It's about to jump to double speed. But using the flat screwdriver, you're going to gently want to pull back and just unlock each one of those little tabs. Be very, very careful to be doing it from the edge out here where there's none of the little transistors and the other parts on the board. There's some places where if you're trying to pry, you could accidentally knock one of the resistors or transistors off, and then you're going to end up damaging the phone even further than it already potentially could be. So this is a very delicate process. Take your time and just work it all the way around, paying caution not to damage any of the components that are on the board. And so that one above where I'm peeling the tape off, that one you're not going to be able to take off. Simply because it's actually spot welded on. This doesn't come off as simply as these do. All these ones on the back side will be able to come off. And as you can see, you just click out the tabs, lift up, and then kind of work your way around. You can use a bit of a force once you get a couple of them clicked, and then if the area that you can't reach, you get your screwdriver under there and you can kind of lift the whole thing off. Those plates will bend back together in the right spot. And then underneath all the plates there is the rubber, little bit of a spacer underneath each of them. So you take that out as well because we need to get underneath that rubber spacer so that we can actually clean all the chips that are on the board. And so this one you're going to be able to get basically half the side, and then that left side and the back side is going to be very difficult to get to. It's not really connected the same way. So you kind of just have to use a little bit of force and lift it off gently. The back side on that big one actually hooks in there. So now that we have the board all the way apart, we're actually going to be able to use our iRevive spray to clean the phone. And what you're going to want to do is get a container or something underneath to catch the excess, and then you're going to spray a generous amount and pretty much cover most of the board. And what iRevive spray actually does is it acts as a solvent to remove any of the corrosion that might have already formed on the board, and it's also going to displace any water that may still be left. It evaporates super fast, so by getting this on here, cleaning it, displacing the water, and then evaporating, it's going to dry it out, make the board super clean. As you saw in that first part a couple seconds ago, scrubbing pretty slow. You want to be very delicate about it. Make sure you're hitting it at all angles when you're doing this. Get down in the cracks. It's hard with the framing from where the heat shield covers the board, so you really have to work your brush at an angle sometimes. But there's no rush. Keep spraying more on as you need it. Clean the board. Really inspect it to make sure that you don't see any of that green or white corrosion. That's what's going to be causing the problems with your phone. So as you're done cleaning the front and the back side of the board, making sure that you've gotten every little nook and cranny and cannot see any visual corrosion or damage on the board, we're going to go ahead and let it dry. The best thing to do is to set it out for 1 to 2 hours, but if you're in a rush, you can use a blow dryer. I would recommend to use it on the cool setting. You don't want to get a lot of heat on there, and simply fan the board. You can place it in front of a fan, whatever you want to do. Once you are 100% sure that the board is completely dry, we're going to now start to reassemble it. First off, by replacing the heat protection covers. Remember that the rubber spacers do have to fit on there before you snap on the metal heat plates over it. And if you have one of the heat plates that's a little bit bent, or if one of the tabs is you pried it too far out and spin out, they're very flexible, very easy to bend back straight, and then you can bend the tabs back in so that they'll snap on and fit onto the board properly. Make sure that you just have them lined up, and once you have them lined up, you just push down and they'll snap right on. Once you get the rest of the logic board reassembled, take a moment to inspect the rest of the mid-frame of the phone or the body of the phone that's now empty. Just look for any water residue in there. It should have been drying out the same time you had the logic board drying out, but if you see any water in there, make sure to either wipe that up and then let it dry some more, because that could affect other functions of the phone. So look just all the way around the edges, up on the top, down by the bottom. Just look for any water, moisture that still remains. Fit in the top part of the logic board first, pushing it all the way up and getting it flush, and then you can set the bottom in. Make sure that you get all the flex cables lifted up out of the way before you set the board down into the phone. If it's not setting down all the way flush, just take it back out, take a second look, see how it's fitting in there, and then put it back on. As you can see, we just put the gold prong back on there. Remember that at this point, if you need to take the video, go to the settings, slow it down to half speed, then you can see everything happening on the screen, at least in real time, instead of being sped up. Once you have the board set in, you get those 2 top screws locking it down, holding it into place. Go ahead and one by one fit these flex cable connectors on and make sure they snap down properly all the way. A lot of times when someone does a repair, that's the antenna connector right there that you just saw, just below the screw inside of a screw. That one's kind of just got to wiggle it around and then feel where it sits down, push down. Once you get all those flex cables snapped down properly all the way, then we can replace this heat shield. You just want to emphasize that it is important to make sure that you have them properly connected. Otherwise, you're going to get the phone, you're going to go to turn it back on, and the screen won't light up because you didn't have the LCD connector connected all the way. So that's probably what's going to be most common mistakes whenever it's one of your first times working on a phone like this. As you can see, we're just going back down, replacing all the screws that we've taken out along the way. It's very simple, straightforward from this point as far as getting the phone back together. Here we have the antenna. This one you don't want to force, it is kind of fragile, so it's best to line it up from the side and then snap it down. I luckily got it on my first try there. Done a couple of these here and there. And as we finish up, remember that iRevive can be used on any PCB, which is a printed circuit board found in almost any mobile electronic devices. We're still trying to come out with guides for all of them. We do have a 100% guarantee. If it doesn't work on your phone, we will refund your money. So there's no reason that you shouldn't at least order this and try it. If your phone was the more recent that your phone was damaged, the better the odds are of fixing it. But we have had phones that have been water damaged for years, and go ahead and clean them up with iRevive and we'll actually get them restored and running. Again, make sure the first thing, if it's not, iRevive doesn't fix it, check the battery, and then also it can cause damage to the LCD. So once you can use iRevive to save the logic board, you'll be able to spend a little bit of money and fix whatever other components may have been water damaged as well. But that's it for iRevive. Order at iReviveSpray.com and get your phone fixed today. Thanks for watching.